Greetings, friends. In my new video, I simply could not avoid such a cult movie as Gone with the Wind, released in 1939. Even today, this movie is watched on one breath, despite the fact that it is already 85 years old. And certainly we can say that this picture for all times. By the way, put a like if you think that this is a really great movie. But talking about this movie, we cannot help but remember that the shooting itself was far from easy. The producer, actors, and crew members had to go through a lot to get the movie made. So let's remember how the legendary movie Gone with the Wind was filmed, as well as look at some interesting footage from the filming of this movie. The idea to make a movie Gone with the Wind was born after the success of the release of the novel of the same name by Margaret Mitchell in 1936. Moreover, Mitchell wrote the novel in a very strange way. She already had a ready-made end, the last chapter, and the rest she invented as she went along, focusing on his ending. The book sold 50,000 copies already on the first day of its sale, and later it was awarded the Pulitzer Prize. Margaret Mitchell's honorarium for the book she wrote was $500, plus author's interest on the sales. In the end, the writer earned in the neighborhood of $3 million. And if we take inflation, today this amount would be $33 million. By the way, originally Mitchell's novel was to be called Tomorrow Will Be Another Day. At least under this name, it was going to be printed. But Mitchell did not like this name, and eventually she came up with several alternatives. Among them was the title Gone with the Wind, which she had peeked at in Ernest Dawson's novel Sayonara. About a month after the book's release, producer David Selznick, who had previously produced the 1933 film King Kong, negotiated with Margaret Mitchell to buy the screen rights to her book. This deal cost Selznick $50,000. Writing the script, Selznick commissioned the famous screenwriter Howard. He agreed on the condition that he would work alone and no one would interfere with him. In the end, he gave the script for a 5-hour movie, which terribly angered Selznick. But Howard refused to shorten his masterpiece, so Selznick began to look for people who would tweak the script. Initially, the role of Scarlett wanted to take actress Beth Davis, but she could not get it because she had a long-term contract with the studio Warner Brothers. Nevertheless, Jack Warner agreed to let Beth go to the shooting on the condition that Rhett Butler will play Errol Flynn. But then Bette Davis herself backed up, as she did not want to see Errol Flynn as her partner, considering him too feminine. In the end, the studios and Beth were never able to come to a common decision. The search for an actress for the lead role was not easy. For the role of Scarlett claimed almost 1,500 applicants. Of these, 400 applicants passed the first stage and got to the second audition. But in the end, for the role of Scarlett, chose unknown Vivien Leigh. Vivien's candidacy approved even the writer Margaret Mitchell. And it was very strange because initially the role of Scarlett wanted to take exclusively American actress, while Vivien Leigh was British. In order to hide Vivien's British accent, she had to hire a dialect coach. But there was another small problem. Vivien Leigh has naturally blue eyes, whereas in the story Scarlett should have green eyes. But that problem was solved with filters and special makeup. Yes, she did not become completely green-eyed, but her eyes have at least a little bit of green color. For the role of Rhett Butler considered such famous actors as Gary Cooper, Ronald Colman, and some other stars of the 30s. But in the end, the role went to Clark Gable, who just perfectly embodied on the screen image of Butler. True, to get Clark was not so easy, because he had a contract with MGM. The head of the company was his father-in-law, Louis Mayer, who did not want to give a competitor, even if the husband of his daughter, Gable. But after a while, Louis Mayer took pity on his relative and gave him Clark Gable and even gave him money for the movie, $1.25 million, to save him from humiliation. Admittedly, Louis Mayer didn't do it for free either. For his goodwill gesture, he received the distribution rights to the movie, as well as 50% of the profits for the first 7 years of the show. When Gary Cooper turned down the role, he stated that the movie would be a flop, and he was very happy that Clark Gable would fail. But as you all know, the movie Gone with the Wind was a worldwide hit. During the filming of the movie, Three directors were involved. The first of them was George Cukor, who shot a good part of the scenes, but as a result was dismissed from the project by David Selznick. The producer fired the director, believing that he could not shoot romantic scenes between a man and a woman, as he is a representative of non-traditional orientation. Although, according to another version, Cukor was fired because he wanted to shoot the movie according to the original script. The next director, the main one, was Victor Fleming. This famous director, David Selznick, also got thanks to his father-in-law, Louis Mayer, because at that time Fleming directed the movie The Wizard of Oz for MGM Studio. But to help his son-in-law, the head of MGM ripped off the heart of his director. But Fleming so strongly irritated Vivien Leigh his approach to filming that the actress constantly brought the original book on the set to show the director how wrong he is in certain moments. Near the end of filming, Fleming admitted that he was severely exhausted and could no longer continue to work, so the shooting was completed by Sam Wood. However, a little later, after a little rest, Fleming still returned to work, and eventually there were already two directors on the set. The script of the movie was constantly changing, because of which the actors could not properly prepare for shooting. It even came to the point that every day brought another new version of the script. Actor Leslie Howard, who played Ashley, literally hated his role. He was very uncomfortable in this image, as the actor himself was 45 years old, while his character at the time of the beginning of the movie was only 21 years old. Moreover, he was terribly annoyed by the costumes he wore on the set. He even mentioned that he felt like he was playing the role of a doorman in a magical hotel. He later wrote a letter to his daughter saying how much he hated his character Ashley and how it pissed him off that they were trying to make a young man out of him by constantly dressing him up and applying makeup. The role of Mammy was claimed by President Roosevelt's personal cook, Lizzie McDuffie, but eventually Hattie McDaniel was cast for the role. For this role, Hattie McDaniel won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actress. Moreover, she basically became the first black actress to win an Academy Award. But since at that time black people in the United States were second-class people, Hattie had to sit at a separate table. And one more point about dark-skinned people. No black actor was allowed to attend the premiere of Gone with the Wind, including Hattie McDaniel, who played a very important role in the movie. In defense of Hattie McDaniel stood up Clark Gable himself. He and Hattie very well communicated and even friends, so he said that if the performer of the role of Mamushka will not be at the premiere, he will disrupt the screening of the movie. But so that Gable had no problems, Hattie McDaniel asked him not to do this and just quietly attend the premiere. Actress Barbara O'Neill, who played the role of Scarlett's mother, was actually only 3 years older than Vivien Leigh. Clark Gable refused to cry on camera because he believed that men should not cry. He even threatened to quit the movie if the director and producers insisted on tears in the frame. Then the director persuaded Gable to shoot two identical scenes, one in which he would cry and one in which he would not. By comparing these versions, the director managed to convince the actor that the tearful scene looked much better. Also, the director told Gable that the tears in this scene only embellished him and made him more interesting to the audience. Notably, Gone with the Wind was the world's first fully color film. Color filming in the late 30s was a real miracle, but to do it, you had to sweat a lot, because the method of color filming required just a huge financial outlay. Even after the release of the film companies did not make films in color for a long time. The era of color film began around the 50s to 60s. The composer Max Steiner had a very limited time to write music for the movie, so he had to work 20 hours every day. All this time, the poor composer had to sit on pills. For his work, Vivien Leigh received $25,000, while Clark Gable's fee amounted to $120,000. And this is taking into account the fact that he spent much less time on the set than Vivien Leigh. Many black citizens accused Hattie McDaniel, who played the role of Mammy, of betraying her people by playing in a racist movie. To this, she replied that she would rather play the role of a maid for $700 a week than work as a real maid for $7 a week. The movie did not feature a real steam locomotive, but only a model of it, although the original plan was to use a real General steam locomotive. Wilbert Kurtz arranged to have this steam locomotive provided for filming, but the management demanded for this service to pay for travel expenses, round trip, at a price of $3 for every 100 pounds of weight. And given that the locomotive weighed about 50,000 pounds, not counting the cars, this transportation would have cost the studio a lot of money. Therefore, the real steam locomotive had to be abandoned in favor of wooden models. For filming, the movie needed an old nag which would protrude ribs, and such a horse eventually managed to find. But while it was delivered to the set, she managed to gain weight and protruding ribs disappeared from sight. Then the makeup artist had to draw on the horse dark stripes, which played the role of protruding ribs. Olivia de Havilland, who played Melanie, specially visited maternity hospitals before shooting the movie to learn how young mothers behave after childbirth and how they cope with stress. During Melanie's labor scene, director George Cukor pinched Olivia de Havilland's toes so she could feel the pain a little bit. By the way, Olivia de Havilland lived the longest of the four main characters. The actress died only in 2020 at the age of 104. Clark Gable died at the age of 59. Vivien Leigh was 53 at the time of her death, and Leslie Howard was only 50. Leslie Howard, by the way, was a reserve officer, and when World War I broke out, he went off to fight. Unfortunately, his plane was shot down on June 1, 1943. Actors Vivien Leigh and Clark Gable disliked each other in life. Vivien Leigh said that she could not stand to kiss Gable during filming, as he had a strong smell of breath. At the same time, according to crew members, Clark Gable ate garlic before filming kissing scenes. Moreover, Gable did not consider Vivien Leigh as an actress. For him, she was just a pretty face, nothing more. Remember the scene when, after the birth of his daughter, Rhett pours Mammy an alcoholic drink to celebrate the event. At this point, there was supposed to be tea in the decanter, but the crafty Clark Gable poured actual alcohol into the glass. And an unsuspecting Hattie McDaniel actually drank the alcoholic beverage. Her surprise was unparalleled. There were just under 60 actors in the movie, as well as in the neighborhood of 2,500 extras, among them 400 volunteer extras who were filmed for free. Also, mannequins were used in the scene with the wounded. Gone with the Wind won 8 Oscar statuettes in the categories of Best Film, Best Actress, Vivien Leigh, Best Supporting Actress, Hattie McDaniel, Best Director, Victor Fleming, Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Cinematography, Best Art Direction, and Best Editing. With a budget of $3.85 million, the movie earned a record $402.3 million at the box office. And if you take the amount of fees adjusted for inflation, it comes out to about $4.2 billion. Yes, Gone with the Wind is currently the highest-grossing movie when adjusted for inflation. Even Avatar, which is currently the highest-grossing movie in the world, grossing $2.9 billion, has only grossed $3.82 billion when adjusted for inflation. Producer David Selznick paid a $5,000 fine for having foul language in the movie Gone with the Wind, but the producer himself always said that he didn't regret this fine, as it was worth it. Director Victor Fleming assumed that the movie would eventually fail at the box office. So he decided not to take any chances and instead took a flat fee instead of the originally proposed percentage of box office receipts. This was his big mistake. Shooting the movie Gone with the Wind became a real production hell for everyone. Actors constantly quarreled, the crew was constantly changing, the money was not enough, the script is now and again subjected to revisions. In the end, David Selznick began to have health problems. He grabbed a stomach ulcer, and his hair began to turn gray. 29. The premiere of the movie, Gone with the Wind, was a landmark event for Atlanta. On the day of the premiere, about 1 million people arrived from all over the United States. The governor of Georgia made it a public holiday on this occasion. What do you think about this movie? Share your opinion in the comments. Thanks for watching and see you in new videos.